3 days before the first race of the season, Ferrari made a move that has rival teams recalculating everything. Not a headline-grabbing redesign, not a desperate gamble. A precision upgrade package built around Lewis Hamilton's feedback and engineered specifically for the Australian Grand Prix. Leaked data suggests the refined blown exhaust and diffuser combination could be worth up to 0.2 per lap in traction zones. 0.2 at the front of Formula One is the difference between chasing and controlling. Add to that a fresh 0.67/6 power unit, a more reactive turbo to reduce lag out of slow corners, and hybrid maps recalibrated to avoid early clipping in high-temperature conditions. And suddenly, this is not just an evolution. It is a statement. The FIA is tightening oversight on active aero and energy deployment. Ferrari responds not with risk, but with smarter execution. Hamilton calls the car calm under braking, stable in its window. But here is the real question. If this refined SF-26 delivers in Melbourne, are we about to see the balance of power shift before race one even settles? Subscribe now, because what Ferrari is bringing to Australia could define the entire championship from the very first lights out. What makes this moment even more explosive is where we are in the season. We are not halfway through a development battle. We are not reacting to 10 races of data. We are days away from the very first Grand Prix. Australia, Albert Park, a circuit that exposes weaknesses immediately. Heavy braking into turn 1. Sharp traction demands out of turn 3. Relentless acceleration zones that punish turbo lag and unstable rear balance. And Ferrari has aimed this upgrade package directly at those pressure points. The refined blown exhaust system now works in tighter harmony with the extended diffuser. Hot gases are guided more precisely, increasing rear load exactly when the driver commits to throttle. That means stronger traction, cleaner exits, less wheel spin under power. And in Melbourne, that translates directly into lap time. But it does not stop there. The fresh 0.67/6 power unit is not about peak horsepower. It is about responsiveness. A smaller, more reactive turbine reduces hesitation in lower gears. That means when Hamilton touches the throttle out of a slow corner, the car responds instantly. No delay, no pause, just controlled acceleration. And when that is combined with hybrid maps optimized to prevent early clipping in race conditions, something powerful happens. The SF-26 becomes consistent. Not just quick over one lap, strong over a full stint. And that is where Hamilton's fingerprints are impossible to ignore. He did not push for a nervous qualifying rocket. He pushed for braking stability. 4 smoother transitions between mechanical braking and energy regeneration. For a rear axle that does not snap when energy recovery begins. In Bahrain testing, a clear pattern appeared. Leclerc extracted peak performance. Hamilton focused on rhythm, on tire preservation, on energy discipline. Together, that dual feedback widened the operating window of the car. And that might be the most important development of all. Because a wider operating window means fewer mistakes under pressure. It means the car remains predictable even when temperatures rise. It means strategy becomes flexible instead of reactive. But here is the tension building underneath. Albert Park can be unforgiving in heat. If rear ride height drifts, if brake balance is misjudged, if thermal management slips even slightly, rear tires can overheat quickly. And with tighter FIA monitoring on active aero and hybrid deployment, Ferrari cannot rely on aggressive tricks. They must rely on balance. So as we approach lights out in Melbourne, this is not just about speed. It is about composure. If the SF-26 looks calm under heavy braking, if it launches cleanly out of slow corners, if its energy deployment remains smooth and controlled over long runs, then the message to the grid will be unmistakable. Ferrari did not just improve, they evolved. And if that evolution holds under real race pressure, the psychological shift at the top of Formula One could begin from the very first lap of the season. But here is where this story becomes bigger than just Melbourne. Because the first race does not just reveal speed, it reveals intent. If Ferrari arrives in Australia with a car that looks composed, predictable, and strategically adaptable, that sends a message far beyond one weekend. It tells Red Bull that this will not be a chaotic challenge. It tells Mercedes that this is not a temporary spike in performance. It tells the FIA that Ferrari understands exactly where the regulatory boundaries sit. And intent changes how rivals respond. If the SF-26 qualifies on the front row, the headline will focus on raw pace. But if on Sunday, Hamilton manages tire degradation calmly while maintaining competitive lap times, that is when the real pressure begins. Because sustained pace forces other teams into uncomfortable decisions. Do they accelerate their upgrade timelines? Do they introduce aggressive aero packages earlier than planned? Do they push hybrid deployment closer to the limit? Early season reactions often shape the entire development curve, and Ferrari knows that. Now, consider the internal dynamic. Hamilton brings experience, precision, and long-run intelligence. Leclerc brings qualifying aggression and peak extraction. If Melbourne shows that both can operate near their preferred balance without compromising each other, then Ferrari has achieved something rare. A genuinely adaptable platform. That adaptability is not just about comfort. It is about resilience. Because over a long season, weather changes. Circuits vary. Temperatures fluctuate. A car that survives narrow setup windows struggles to evolve. A car with a wider operational range grows stronger with each update. And that is the quiet confidence emerging from Maranello. Not explosive optimism, measured belief. But let us not ignore the risk. The thermal sensitivity remains delicate. The active aero logic must stay inside tighter FIA oversight. The hybrid management must avoid obvious deployment spikes. If Ferrari misjudges any of those elements, the advantage evaporates quickly, which is why Australia is the ultimate stress test. Heavy braking zones will expose rear stability. Slow corners will reveal turbo responsiveness. Longer stints will uncover energy consistency. If the SF-26 passes that examination without drama, the conclusion will be unavoidable. This is not the Ferrari of recent seasons. This is a car shaped by two elite drivers with different strengths, refined through detailed methodology and calibrated for control rather than chaos. And if that becomes clear from the first green light in Melbourne, the championship narrative changes immediately. Because from that moment forward, Ferrari would not be chasing momentum. They would be defining it. And this is the moment where everything tightens. Because if Ferrari walks out of Australia strong, the pressure does not stay in Melbourne. It spreads across the paddock, into design offices, into simulation rooms, into late-night strategy meetings. If Hamilton steps onto that grid, and the SF-26 looks planted under braking, if it rotates cleanly without snapping, if it launches out of slow corners without hesitation, rival engineers will notice immediately. Not the headline lap time, the behavior. Because behavior tells you whether a car is fundamentally balanced. And balance is the hardest thing to copy. Anyone can bolt on downforce. Anyone can trim drag, but if the chassis, the hybrid system, and the aero platform are working in harmony, that is structural. And structural advantages do not disappear overnight. Now imagine the race scenario. Lap 10, fuel load dropping, tires entering their working range, energy deployment patterns becoming clearer. If the Ferrari holds consistent lap times while others begin to fluctuate, the message is subtle but devastating. It means the car lives comfortably inside its operating window. It means Hamilton can manage the race instead of reacting to it. And when Hamilton manages a race from the front, he becomes extremely difficult to beat. Not because he is reckless, but because he is patient. He calculates. He waits for others to make the mistake. And if the SF-26 gives him that platform, the psychological pressure shifts instantly. Red Bull would not just be racing Ferrari. They would be racing a driver who knows how to stretch a stint by 2 laps. Who knows how to harvest energy strategically without compromising lap time. Who knows how to protect rear tires when temperatures spike. And then there is Leclerc. If he extracts peak performance on Saturday and Hamilton controls Sunday, Ferrari suddenly covers both dimensions of a race weekend. Qualifying speed, race discipline. That combination forces rivals into uncomfortable territory. Because if you cannot out-qualify them cleanly and you cannot out-manage them over a stint, your margin disappears. And here is the larger implication. If Australia confirms that the SF-26 has a wider setup window, Ferrari's development path becomes smoother. Future upgrades will enhance a stable base, not fix instability, not chase unpredictable balance swings. Enhance, refine, amplify. That is how championship cars are built. But the first confirmation has to come under pressure, under race fuel, under tire degradation, under FIA scrutiny of active aero and hybrid deployment. If Ferrari passes that test, the narrative shifts immediately, not in a dramatic explosion, but in a quiet realization across the grid. Ferrari is no longer experimenting. They are executing. And if execution defines the opening race of the season, then from that moment forward, every rival team will understand something critical. They are not chasing a flash of speed. They are chasing a complete package, and that is a far more difficult target to catch.